that is no longer the term that should be used. It should be intercultural relations or nothing decolonial pedagogy. So I apologize to you, the team. I didn't have time to fix that today, and that's something that we'll have to make sure that in the future that will be changed. So I'm a teacher of the deaf, and I'm working in a small resource program in a hearing high school. This is in an area that approach within a hearing school. I live in what I would call a deaf diaspora. Before I get started, I wanted to give you a sense of what that means. A deaf diaspora means that the culturally deaf people who use American Sign Language and who have a deaf community have greatly diminished because of the policies of deaf education and the travel. And so the policy dictates that children who are born deaf stay with their families and their own communities. So there's very little access on the part of those children to the larger deaf community. And consequently, the community is done. It's just becoming smaller and smaller over time. And what's happened because of that is that there is a diaspora community where I'm still a part of that community. I'm part of a very small number of people. Like here in Regina, there's probably about 30 or 40 deaf people who use sign language to communicate. In Saskatoon, it's a little bit bigger. There's about 50 or 60 deaf people who use sign language. And then in the province as a whole, there'll be about 300. But a lot of those people are scattered. They're living in tremendous isolation. So the focus on mainstreaming cochlear implant has really diminished the community. But there's some other interesting things that have been happening. First of all, there's a lot of international deaf students. Like for example, my program probably have tripled, no doubled. It has doubled because of the number of international students. I have students from Bangladesh, Pakistan, Syria, Somalia, who have come into my program, and that number is expected to increase by another third next year. So yes.
Is that just because there's more immigrant families coming, or they know of the program, so they're sending their kids?
They've been relocated. They're a newcomer Canadian, and many of them have hearing losses that either have never been treated or have never had an educational intervention. So I'm getting a variety of people, but many of them don't have a language. They were just kept within their family. They relied on gestural systems or pointing, whatever. And some already have a spoken language, but maybe have a progressive hearing loss, which means it gets worse over time. So, when we talk about the interesting things that are happening in terms of linguistic development, we are now seeing a lot of non-standard stuff. So that means we get sort of something, like for example, people make a sign that kind of approximates the sign that the people use in the deaf community. And sometimes the phrase is a little bit different, sometimes it looks different, the accent is different. So we're getting a lot of differences in terms of language. So my research question was, well, how do I respond to these different, the wide variety of students I have? Because I have students who are all too, who don't know any sign language. I have students who are hard of hearing. I have students who have no language or very little language, and I have students who are sort of in between. So there's a very wide range. So in order for me to be responsible, I had to look at my own privilege. I'm a white person, and I have an awful lot of audio sensitive privilege. I don't hear very well, and I know that, but I was able to develop enough speech based on the little hearing that I had. So I had to really look at that, and I had to look at how I was dealing with the student. I also have to look at autism, which is sort of similar to racism in the sense that you evaluate the deaf person in terms of how well they speak, how they behave like human people, and then you make judgments about that person. Then I also have to look at all the social, cultural, and political impacts on me as a deaf person, especially when the deaf school closed. That was a tremendous blow to me, because I have trained to work in a school for the deaf. I have taken time and money and effort to learn stuff, and then all of a sudden, bang, closed. I can't do anything with it at that time. Also, looking at intersectionality, looking at some of the students that I have, deafness is not the only issue. There are many other issues that's racism. Like about 9 out of the 11 students I have are people of color. I only have 2 white people in my classroom. This is very interesting. So also, the research out there talks about how deaf teachers teach, and there's a very heightened sense of intergenerational responsibility to try to make things better for the younger students. So we look at ways in which how we're going to remove those practices and try to develop a positive attitude about being deaf. And that is very heightened according to this one researcher. She's with a group of Belgian anthropology. So just visually, in comparison to the other deaf communities, we have a very big deaf community here in Vancouver, and then another one in Toronto, another one in Winnipeg, Alberta and Edmonton, Calgary about the same size, and then we've got this tiny little place in Regina. So the theory that I chose to use was post-humanism, and this really came out of a class that I think you were in that room as well. Well, I was having a conversation with one of my PhD fellow students, and I was trying to describe, how at all times there's always something that I have to deal with in terms of my deafness. Like, for example, right now there's a hum. And there's a hum out there, and there's a hum inside my ear. So I have to constantly deal with material realities. It's not just about being able to hear things or not hear things. It's about manipulating things so that I can benefit or negotiate my way through things. So I became very, very interested in using materiality and the whole area of research on new materialism. So one of the things that's very important about post-humanism is that it tries to get the human out of the equation and to flatten all the epistemology. But for example, you don't want to put human beings at the top, controlling everything that's going on on this planet. You want to see the human as part of an ecology of relationship. And that is also with non-living things, animals and plants. So in post-humanism, all these positionalities are flattened, so they're all in equal relation to each other. These are some of the researchers that I've been reading and writing about that. So that might be something that you could look at more in depth. I would recommend Joanne. She wrote a book called Meeting the Universe Halfway. And then Ray Doty was very important as well. Jackson was on that one that we took in our class. Yeah. So the ontologies are flattened. There are no hierarchies, labels, or categories. Representation is replaced by performativity. So it was always about movement. If you think about post-humanism, think movement. Don't think about what's reflected. Like if I see the cup, and you look at the cup, you describe the cup, and you see the color, the print, and all of that, and then you rip the data away from the cup, so to speak. I mean, I'm probably being always simplistic. But with post-humanism, it's always about what am I doing with the cup? picking it up, moving it over here. If I move it over here, that means Murray might steal it. And if I put it back over here, then it's safe. So it's about where that cup is moving, and what am I doing with that cup, and what is Murray going to do with that cup. And also getting cold, the coffee. So now there's another element about, okay, so do I go over there and fill it up? So it's always about the relationship between the material aspect in the environment and what people are doing at all times in different ways. And that's a tremendous implication for deaf study, because there's no such thing as the hearing world or the deaf world, and that has been a huge problem for us, because we've got these two opposing camps. And so we always traditionally think of border crossing as border crossing from the deaf world into the hearing world, and the hearing world into the deaf world, and so we construct identities around, are you hearing? If so, are you hearing enough? Or are you deaf? Or if so, are you deaf enough? And so one of the things that we need to be thinking about is how a deaf person moves through the establishment. It's not about what they do, what they look like, it's about what they do. And so we need an accurate cartography, which is like a map. Except that when you think about that Harry Potter movie, when you look at the map and you see the dots moving all through the corridors, with the invisibility cloak, and you can see people moving, it's like this map that's constantly moving. It's always in motion. So in an assemblage, you might want to look at this as a really messy group painting of a paint being splattered all over the place. Imagine all of that moving. And those dots are different things that are moving on that map. They're not static, they're not staying in one place. So here I just made a list within an assemblage. When we talk about an assemblage, it's like a collection of things that have a relation to one another. It's rhizomatic. So there's no one aspect of that established that's more important than the other. All of them are doing things to each other throughout that establishment. So part of approaching humanism talks about nomadology, being a nomad. And the idea of being a nomadic researcher is that you're always moving over or through this establishment. You're not necessarily making things stop because you can't. You always have to keep moving. And so this is to acknowledge the fact that there are no boundaries anymore between humans and animals. They have broken down, or organic matter or machine, or physical things or non-physical things. So you're zigzagging all the time between animals, earth, and machine. So the accurate topography then would have lines of movement in between the different elements in the establishment. Are you following me so far? I know this is like way, way out there. It took me a long time. I'm not sure if I completely understand it. And so one of the things that we're looking at in this cartography is what we call an affect. Now I'm using the yellow stars to show the affect. And affects are feeling states that of intensity, of feeling. They can be playfulness, it can be desire, it can be passion, it can be excitement, rage, suffering, like something that has a lot of energy. It's too simple to say that affects is the feeling. It's not really just the feeling, it's about the energy. So you can be traveling along, oh my goodness, there's something going on here. I'm going to pay attention to that. Whereas if I was looking at this coffee cup, but didn't decide doing anything, nothing going on there, I don't want to look at it. Okay? So it's really about finding that those particular spots in this moving assemblage of the different affects that are going on. And affects can transform and bring about change. So when you're thinking about doing a cartography, you're looking at those affects and thinking, maybe there's a different way to think about this, because affects help you to get away from the binaries. Because binaries are very black and white, they're very, make you think in a very simplistic way. But the affects will open up different ways of thinking. Now, I'm also very interested in the abstract affect, because very often in a cartography, people look at things that are interesting, but sometimes the abstract affect is whatever it is that you don't want to look at, or people are not talking about it, or people don't want to think about it. It's very interesting when I work with some of my students who are newcomer Canadians, and I always ask them, so, how do you like Canada? Oh, Canada's wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. But you sit down and listen to some of the stories about what it's like to be here, you deal with some parents, you deal with the families, you start to realize there's stuff out here that they're not bringing to the fore. I'm like this, so why should they tell me what it's like for them, maybe? And why should I even be asking that question? But it's a way of looking at things that are not yet told. There's stuff in between very observable data that slips, and that's why you have people like Regina and Jackson. You have Later who talks about data that leaks, that slips. Betty St. Pierre talks about that, where you've got 2 points in between data, but there's something here that's not being spoken, that's not being said. But that fits in with this cartography. So one of the things about the abstract and others is that it's not an unconscious actor. It's a whole thing, the assumption is producing that object. It's not the person. And whatever happens in this movement, that you see that there's stuff over here that the assumption is actually pushing it out, pushing it away. And it's also being created and remade and reshaped and pushed away, and other aspects come back into play. So one of the things about the methodology is that you should be striving towards creating an accurate cartography. So you have to map what they call interaction, which means how are all these things in the assemblage interacting with each other, not interacting, but interaction. So that means it's giving off certain energies, and you receive that energy, and then you give it off somewhere else. That's part of the interaction, the relationship between the animal, the earth, and the machine. One of the things that I want to say about in this particular study is that when you don't include what I call the abstracted affects, the cartography is not accurate. You have to pay attention to what the astronomer is not doing, what the astronomer is not saying, just as much as it is, and pay attention to what it is doing and what it is saying. So this would be a form of visual analysis. As researchers, we love to rip out data and say, here's my data, here's what it means. And even in a qualitative approach, there is that sense of doing all these interviews and coding and naming and putting things into categories and we know now what this really means, and we interpret that. And so this is about saying we're not trying to represent anything. We're just trying to show the movement. We're not trying to say, here's A, B, C, and D, and this means this, because what that is, you're reflecting something. You're representing this is the cup. So it's very frustrating post-humanism because what the heck are you doing then? When you're talking about it got very woo. It can really send you out into outer space when you really think about exactly what is happening. But it's more about developing different ways of thinking. That's what it's all about. It's not about representing what is already in front of you. It's about trying to develop a different kind of mindset, being open to possibility. Especially when you get stuck in polarizing binary. So, for example, here are three establishments. I have a school establishment, I have home establishments, and then I have the international deaf community. I don't really want to get into that too much because then I'll let down. Okay? And this is supposed to be a methodology seminar. So, but we can take a look at the school establishment. So here we have all of these things in my establishment school. I've got the bullies, I've got abjects, I've got folk funeral, deaf diaspora, Ashman deaf school, deaf elders, deaf prose play, hearing aids, Tom Collegiate, math making, shadow puppets, school administration, Regina deaf community, deaf recovery Canadian, deaf academics, amphibians, cochlear implants, wolves, and family dogs. Family dogs, not of this kind of down here at the bottom. Family dogs. And so how there are relationships between all of them. All of them I deal with in an assemblage. Some of them are animals, some of them are things, some of them are people. And so this is shifting every day, depending on what happens, what surfaces throughout the day. So, I whittled down my lips because the lips is just really, really long, right? I mean, it's just because it is constantly changing and moving. You can't talk about all of them, but you can select a few. So, one of the things that I selected was, this was a group activity done by a group of deaf students. They had to make marks. The artist in residence did a series of meditation exercises, and then she had them go ahead and form a mark out of clay. And she said, no one is to talk to each other. You can look at each other's back, but you can't make a comment. You can't say, oh, that's nice, or that's good, or that's bad, or I think this is what it is. So the students had to do this entire activity in silence. So this is what they came up with. I was shocked. Now, my room is a happy room. The kids are happy. We really have a great time in this room. It's a great place. But look at what they made. So that tells me something is getting objective here. So what is getting objective here? But then let's look at some other things. First of all, we have a school for the deaf that's closed. They've never went to the school for the deaf. They've never been there. They didn't even know anything about it. Okay? Then we studied, before we get on to this, and remember when I said then, there is no time in an establishment. There's no time. You don't know when something begins, you don't know when it ends. You don't know when it shows up and when it disappears. So when I talk about that, be careful, because time has a different value than it does when we write about something that represents something. One of the students over here, after several conversations about language deprivation, came back to school with a picture of this bird with his skin peeled back to reveal his brain. He said, this is what my brain looks like because of language deprivation. And then he's trying to knit it and sew it together. And this is after several discussions about what language deprivation looks like. Every one of us wears hearing aids. Every one of us has some kind of speech. Some of it is really good, some of it is not very intelligible. But that's what we've been given. We also have a deaf community here in Regina. And of course, we have the deaf diaspora, which means we very rarely have access and do the two to adult deaf people. And then you have this. So where is it coming from? So in my way of thinking with post-humanism is that this is being produced by all of this. It's an established. So this is producing this. And they are producing this. So it's in relationship with each other. So when they're thinking about crows, they're producing a play about crows called Deaf Crow. So they're in relationship to each other. This is being produced by this is producing this. This is also being influenced by the fact that they're in a deaf diaspora. This is the concept, self-concept of what they think they are, or what they think about, or how they feel. We don't know. These are happy kids, but somewhere in the background here, there's a visual unreal. We just really don't know. But everything is moving, and so you have things that they don't know much about, like for example, the deaf school, and somehow that still has influenced this whole establishment. So it's about looking at ways where the establishment is pushing and pulling and morphing and changing. So one of the things about post-humanism is that it's about looking for the lines of flight. So you look at how the pieces connect up. So I have affects here of how the pieces connect up. And I also have objective affects, because I'm trying to create an accurate topography. So a line of flight really is about what can we do to think differently? What can we do to deterioralize the established? Because remember, the established always is in danger of getting stuck and frozen, doing the same thing over and over again. So in order for the established to keep moving and moving, you have to be able to find that line of flight and go, oh, we can go off in this direction. Because binarizing constantly makes that established not really able to move forward, or people within the established get very stuck, or things in the established get very stuck. So one line of flight for me was how to start thinking, how can I become decolonized in a deaf diaspora when I have very little contact with other deaf people or other deaf peers? No, I can't move to a large deaf community. This is where I live. So that's one of the things I have to start thinking about. Another line of flight is, it's so terrible being in the deaf diaspora. Most people would think it is. But we also have issues with the fact that in the big, vibrant deaf community, they're all using terms like deaf power, deaf empowerment, deafhood. A lot of them are generated by the North American deaf community, in very large communities with lots of financial resources, lots of education. We have our own knowledge that is different. Hello. We have our own knowledge that is different. Is that so bad? Is that so terrible? Is that so wrong? That we're not there, we're here. And so there's an interplay between the local knowledge that we have and the larger, more populated areas. We don't have a strong critical mass, but we do have things that we know that they don't know, and they have things that we don't know. So what's the relationship between that? That opens up thinking about what does it mean to have a deaf space? Do we have deaf spaces? Is it the deaf community we're talking about? Can hearing people being in a deaf space? Yeah. You're in a deaf space right now. But you're not part of the deaf community in the traditional way the deaf community perceive themselves. And maybe that's not going to help us anyway. Maybe that's not valuable. And where are we getting these ideas from? Another line of flight was to think about how do we resist the focus that every deaf person has to be able to learn to speak. And what are we going to do with the deaf person that can never learn to speak well? We're going to say, oh wow, we'll toss you on the guided sheet. We'll let you live on the rest of your life on welfare. That's okay. We did our best. So we have to think about how do we resist. So we did that through create arts-based intervention. So we had a play, we called it Deaf Code. We had an art installation called the Deaf Forest, and now we're doing Apple Time, which is coming up in June. But in doing so, we are creating little publics, pockets of people that are coming to these performances, and now they want to talk. And now they're inviting us to perform in different places. And most of the time, we have to turn down those requests because we don't have the time. But word is getting out there, so that's the way of changing the discourse. If you want to change things, Florida play. Not necessarily, but that was one line of flight that came out of it. Also, one other thing, that the revitalization of ASL in the deaf community is diminished by binary approaching. That is true for deaf people too. We have what we call a linguistic prescriptivism in the deaf community. We have deaf people saying, you can't sound like that, that's wrong, don't do that, that's wrong. Or, this person really is from deaf culture, this person grew up in mainstream environment, so you have nothing to say about it. Okay? So we have to understand that within the binary of both hearing and deaf, all we're doing is creating these spaces where nothing is ever going to happen. But if we start thinking in English, well, then there's all kinds of possibilities that can open up. So we detailed our lives by putting on display. We got lots of really good feedback. I think the more that you can really come up with in terms of a study or conclusions, all you can really say is implication. Or identify lines of flight. It's really, really impossible, or not even desirable to say this means this means that. So I can imply that a deaf diaspora is a starting place for deaf nomads. And most people would say, well, what the heck does that mean? But it means that I have to be moving around a lot. I have to be able to hang out with hearing people. I have to be able to hang out in the deaf community. I've got to be able to go different places and not be firmly entrenched in a position. And that's really hard to do because most people have the ideology. They all want to make sure that, if you go down that path, it's all going to be the right way. Another implication is culturally relevant arts education, the way to develop grassroots support. Because right now, government meetings, as far as I'm concerned, is a waste of time. But that might change. Maybe someone will come out of the blue and invite me to a government meeting. I might be able to say, well, what's in it? What's in it for me? What's in it for the deaf people? Anyway, another implication is to hire more deaf teachers to demonstrate intergenerational responsibility. You see those things shooting off in all these different directions. But that's the whole point. That's the whole point of post-human cartography, is to make you think differently. Because if you read a lot of research, everything's about what's going to be this or this. Everything gets split off into boundaries. It's about being able to conceptualize things differently. Another one is border crossing. Are we border crossing between deaf and hearing worlds? I don't think so. I'm border crossing with the changes in the environment. The minute I turn off my hearing aid, I border cross. I'm still here. But if I turn off my hearing aid and don't hear your voices, well, I've already crossed the border. But I'm still here. So those ideas about border crossing need to be refined. What does that really mean? We also need to be thinking about border crossing between affects and objective affects. We also need to be thinking about how do we assimilate those objective affects into the established. But those maps, for example, we included them in our play. At first we made them. And I said to the artist, well, what about these maps? She said, well, I don't know. Well, we'll have to see. And so we started developing this play about these kids' experiences and oppression and all the rest of it. And then we had an episode where one kid was actually bullying another kid, and I intervened, and I said, we can't do this. We went through our usual intervention. And the artist witnessed all of that. She said, okay, that's where the maps are going to be used. They're going to be used to show bullying. Well, that had nothing to do with the original intent. But it was a way of bringing it in so that they did end up producing something and being produced. So now we refer to them as bully marks, marks associated with bullying. Was that the original intent? Who knows? Objective affects form local knowledge. Like, for example, every time I go into a large deaf community like a conference, and I'm literally like drooling because I'm thinking of looking at those beautiful interpreters. And they're so well trained and they're so qualified, and I'm just like on this high being able to interact with so many people without having to worry about how much I can hear, how much I can lip read, whether the light is right, whether this is right. And then I come back here and then I start to think, well, that's the only reality there is. What do I know that they don't know? So when you look at the Regina deaf community in its entirety here, they know things. We have certain experiences and certain knowledges that are not yet documented or talked about. And we can't talk about it because we're not, quote, hot enough, big enough, important enough. Another implication could be that the language of impairment needs to be included. Like right now, we want to be so positive that the sun is shining out of everybody's eyes when it comes to deaf education. We want to believe that deaf people are equal to hearing people. We want to talk about that they don't have a disability. Well, should we be doing that? Because last week, I blew a tire, I fishtailed down, I walked down a parkway, managed to pull myself over to the side of the road, and then I took out my phone. Oh, damn, I can't talk on the phone. And now, I'm trying to phone CAA, and then blah, 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 push number 1, blah, 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 push number 2, blah, 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 push number 3. So then I told Murray comes and parks behind me, gets in my car, and then he's able to do it. I have no way of contacting anybody, even though I got my cell phone. So, that makes me equal? No, it does not. And on a fundamental level, there is an impairment. And so we're using this rhetoric. Oh, now we have no problems, we're equal. We should have a different language or culture. Really? Think about that. So, becoming deaf. Now I want to talk about this. Like, Deleuze came up with this idea of becoming. You know, you're becoming animal, you're becoming human, you're becoming a mineral, a rock. So what does that really mean? It doesn't mean that you physically become a rabbit or that you physically become a crow. But what you do is you study how does a crow behave. Well, crows are very intelligent. Crows have their own funerals, which means they know how to grieve in a community. And crows are very much collective-oriented. And crows are very aware, looking around at different things, very visually aware. Murray can talk to crows. He has conversations with crows on the front porch in the summertime, yelling out. And they do have a conversation because when he called twice, the other crow will call twice. So you have these kinds of conversations. So when you really think about it, that is becoming deaf in the same way. So what does it mean to be deaf? Well, becoming deaf really looks at all of these things in the established. And also another thing about becoming, you never can become a man, never. You become a woman. You can become a woman, but I can't become a man. Because it's always about taking on a minoritarian position. It's always taking on a position of the minority. So Deleuze and Guattari never talk about becoming a man, because the man's at the top. He's at the top of the pyramid. White males in Europe, European male. So you can't become those things. You always have to be able to focus on becoming minoritarian. So, the one thing I like about the idea of becoming deaf is that it can include the language of impairment. I don't have to pretend that I'm equal in that way. I may be equal to Marie in other ways, but in that particular instance, no, I'm not. So, let's get over it. Move on. The other thing is, the deaf person can be researchers already belonging to the world. Because that's one of the things about binarizing is that when you're not really going to make it here, you know, unless you do this, this, and this, and this, then you can finally fit in. And so when you look at post-humanism, they're saying you're already here. You're already a part of this. Whether you can speak, whether you can sign, whether you're black, or whether you're from a different country, you're here. So there's never this idea of, well, you know, really, you can't really become a human until you've achieved or you're in a right position or you have certain privileges. So that's what I also like about post-humanism is that the established is what makes it real. If you're inside this established, it's moving, and you're moving. Whether you like it or not, you're fully present inside the established. There's no condition for belonging or membership. You're there. It's happening all around us. Anyway, I think, have a more. Also, because of the boundaries being collapsed, you can also collapse the boundaries between the aspects. And so, again, understand that if I'm in a wheelchair, that wheelchair is just as much as part of my body as the wheelchair, as I am as part of the wheelchair's body. There's hearing aids that's been sitting on my ears over 50-some years. I'm not telling you how old I am, but pretty close. 50-some years, it's a part of me, and always will be. Researchers need to be nomadic. Well, if you position yourself as a researcher, it's not about where you've been, what you've done. It's always about looking at how your life is constantly shifting and changing and moving. It's about the movement. It's not about who you represent. And that's one of the things that I'm having difficulties nowadays when people say to me, are you deaf? I say, well, whatever. Or they say, well, are you hearing impaired? Yeah, well, I don't know. If you're hard of hearing, yeah, sometimes. Because I'm on the move now. So those labels I'm positioning myself as what? Member of the deaf community? It's convenient to describe yourself that way, but it doesn't necessarily yield valuable information. So that's the other part of the position is the ontology, looking at how do you describe yourself within that establishment. And then the last one, effective pedagogy is really worth taking a look at because it's the outcome of posthumanism. If you look at how teachers